Hey, I've got a friend. We got Craig Neal in the house.
Hey.
There we go.
Delayed applause, but it's okay.
Okay. Yeah, I forgot to wind up the audience, This is I've Got a Friend TV, where if you need a professional, a contractor, anybody like that, I probably know somebody that does it. My name is Paul Chase with Keller Williams Elite Real Estate. And, oops, where did Craig go? There we go. And our show today is sponsored by Belomo & Associates. So if Belomo & Associates does elder law, asset protection, and estate planning. So if you need any, if you're coming to that empty nester stage like me, the kids are gone, it's time to start thinking about that last and great final stage of life. These are the people that you want to talk to. And just to get my little thing in there, Keller Williams have got a brand new program. If you want to trade in your old house for a new one, just simply type the word trade. Type that to 717-208-2006. You can trade in your old house, go start shopping for your new one, and know that you've got an offer in place for that new house. Please share this broadcast. I can certainly use the exposure. I know Craig, he's got plenty of exposure, and I got to say, Craig, I am really impressed, and so very, very grateful that you chose to do my show 3 times over Oprah.
Oh, well, I've been so busy, Paul. Those who I'm closely connected to, I the greater amount of my time with. So, hey, that was a good one.
You haven't done Oprah 3 times, have you?
No.
No, okay.
My book to be on Oprah. That'd be great. That's like being knighted.
But hey, we got Craig on the show for 3 times, so this is fantastic.
Well, thanks for having me on again, Paul.
So, Craig, tell me a little bit about. I know you got a coach, a consultant, you're a collaborator. Yeah. But tell us again just a little bit about what you do and who you serve, all that good introductory stuff.
Fantastic. Well, as you mentioned, I'm a coach, consultant, and collaborator. My name's Craig Neal. And essentially, my focus is helping leaders and their people achieve their highest level of, not only, their business aspirations, but also within their personal life. But, my focus is more so on the business side. And I like to share how your personal and business kind of tie into one another. And most people know, but don't know how to configure it. But essentially, through my coaching of executives, I'm able to help others change their condition, to change their position with consulting, working on specific projects that help my clients balance their time and their priorities. And then ultimately, as a collaborator, I work side by side with my clients, and I don't necessarily have a specific industry or a product that I'm typecasted into. I've got a wealth of experience in a wide range of industries, so it helps to have someone or have a friend that can help you live your life to the max, and then. I obviously am repping We Speak brand, which is the parent corporation of the whole thing, with a market research firm, a branding and naming firm, a intellectual property and innovation system that ties everything in and helps organizations, accomplish those goals. Hope that was, a brief explainer for you, Paul.
Well, there is your website, your telephone number. I think we'll throw that back up here at the end just for a little bit.
Hey, I appreciate it.
We talked a little bit before the show about all of the changes that are happening in the business world. Real estate is forever changing, and we talked about I ordered, was coming home from the office the other day, went onto one of the websites for one of these delivery services, ordered dinner. It was the only human interaction I had in getting dinner was to thank the driver for bringing it to me. So, and we talked about, P.F. Chang's.
Mm-hmm.
You can't get a table for there. Last time I got reservations, I had to get reservations. I had to get reservations at P.F. Chang's 3 weeks in advance. And it was noisy, it was crowded, and it just wasn't that great of an experience. I can go on the website, order it, pick it up, tell them what time I want it ready, pick it up, and have a nice quiet dinner at home with my wife. For us, that's the experience that we want. So there's a lot of changes going on. I mean, we've got the consumers, their taste and their buying habits are changing. Amazon, we see this all of the time. How does a company, maybe say a smaller, medium size, even a large company, how do they stay relevant in a business environment that's changing every day?
Hey, great question. And, personally, I've never had P.F. Chang's, but I've heard great things.
For high-end Asian, it's good.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll have to try it out the next time that we want to dine at home, but or dine out. But to answer your question, Paul, I think the most important thing that leaders and organizations, small and large, should be aware of is who, what, and how to please their customer. So, who is the customer? How do you please them? And I think the important thing is with everything changing so rapidly, you have a lot of folks that get on the copycat bandwagon. Okay, well, they've enhanced their systems, like for instance using cloud technology to handle most of the orders online. Instead of just following the leader or copycatting someone else's system, you really need to identify who your customer is.
And then what their needs are, and also, does that affect your brand? I was thinking earlier today, Amazon bought Whole Foods simply because Amazon is really a data company. That's who they are, and so they were able to get more data. Whole Foods just simply presented them another platform to get more data about their consumers because, Amazon so tightly wove Amazon Prime into the Whole Foods buying experience. So now they've got more data about their clients and their eating habits and their shopping habits and all of that. But I was really, really shocked to see that Taco Bell is opening a hotel in Palm Springs. Now, how about with that?
Well, it's funny you mentioned that, Paul, and I was going to come in and discuss that with you. I took my son to Taco Bell earlier, dropped my girls off for a dentist appointment, ran over to Taco Bell to, feed them. And, I walked in there and I looked around and I'm like, hold on, there's a kiosk here in Taco Bell. Now, I've heard of the Grubhub, infusion that they have, with delivering tacos and stuff like that. But I got in there. I'm like, what? A kiosk? You mean I can just walk up here and not interact with anyone at the desk and wait for my name to be called and take my bag of tacos with me? It's incredible. But I will mention that Taco Bell is way ahead of the curve, over a lot of like fast food joints in respect to putting innovation and technology at the forefront. So,
McDonald's, I thought McDonald's was the first. Well, actually, I thought
Taco Bell was, I thought.
No, I don't think, I don't know. I generally don't go into Taco Bell. Yeah. But I know McDonald's has got the kiosk. They were doing it to cut labor. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure Taco Bell's doing it to cut labor. Sheetz has had those kiosks ever since I can remember walking into a Sheetz. So I don't know who was first, but that is certainly changing.
Yeah, I mean, me, I'm a people guy, so I believe in human interaction, but I also do, champion having technology in place as a tool to enhance the experience or enhance efficiency. But
what does that say about us as consumers? Is that we'd rather type in our order into a kiosk or into our phones as opposed to the human interaction of flirting with the server?
Well, I'll put my my futurist hat to the side, and speak on, I guess, the human impact of our interactions. We thought the same thing when we went to like Giant or any local grocery store or grocery store chain, where you see, you have your self checkout. I mean, are we too busy? Are we not interested in connecting with people, or is it just part of the way that we're progressing? I believe it's a little bit of all of that, but the more I see it, it's too late to say, well, that's where we're headed. We're already here.
We're there.
We're way beyond that. That entry level point. All the signs were there, and I used to have a little bit of resentment towards that self checkout or I guess limited human interaction. Personally, I like to go and shake someone's hand or thank them for the meal, or have a waiter take care of me, or kind of shoot the breeze with a cashier. However, I guess the signs are there. A lot of people don't really do that as often, and that's it's not that people have lost the amount of time in a day. You got the 1,440 minutes, I believe, in a full day. It's just how we prioritize and how we use our time. If I know I can do my banking online and then order dinner and maybe get some shoes from Zappos with maybe 5 minutes of clicking on my phone, well, that saves me time. I don't have to run back and forth. I don't have to run back to my house to get on the internet. And at the same time, if we're creating an experience, if the goal is to create an experience for your customer or your client, it's going to need the human factor. I'll point this out, Paul. At the end of the day, no matter how AI or how techy we get, it's nothing without energy, right? So if everything's shut down, if all power shut down, and even you couldn't even get any gasoline for your generator and stuff, or what do when all that stuff is just kaput? Now you've invested all your time, your resources, you connected all of your accounts, set up to do everything online, and now that system has failed. So what do we have left? Humans, people, what's always remained. So, to get deeper into that, I think the balance, like I shared before, of yes, using technology and using some AI, with Amazon being mainly in the data collection and the data collection business as opposed to the acquisition unit. How we use that data to identify someone's behaviors or patterns, is on a totally different level than it was maybe not even 5 years ago. But if we're just relying on that and not engaging and interacting with people, I believe we're going to have some challenges. That will ultimately work out, but there'll be some rough times.
Well, I mean, I think a big part of doing that is obviously cost reduction. Labor is the most expensive part of any operation. So
Sure.
anything that can be automated. But what does that say to the to the students up and coming? Can your job be automated and taken away? Real estate, we're seeing a lot. The marketing is automated. Email and responses are automated. I'm making it a point to do custom videos for all of my emails, just so people know that it's not a typewritten robotic message. There's a guy, he's actually talking. The words match his lips moving, and there's specific information relative to that particular person, just to say, hey, I am not a robot. There really is a real live real estate agent back here. But what happens to those workers and that are being, that aren't taking the initiative to train themselves to get into a position that cannot be automated?
Hey, you made a great point, or at least that the lead into that question is, yeah, I mean, you always have to enhance your skills. Back in, the days of old, where it was like, okay, the whole thing was, start a business, hire people smarter than you, and, challenge them to basically do the work for you. You can't do that anymore. You need to be abreast to, the latest, greatest technology. You don't have to be, a super expert. I mean, if you're leading a team, but you better know, what threats, and, what opportunities you have, to compete out there, in your marketplace. And so I encourage, especially with my coaching clients, I always encourage them to dig deeper than just reading like a self-help book. Learn a new trade, a new skill, or something that, the industry is leaning towards. So you'll be on top of it. You'll have better, understanding, and you can, manage that change a lot better within your organization. Because if you just hire the right, the smart people that that can take on a department or, handle a task, ultimately they have the opportunity to leave and start their own thing where they have those skills, and they also, have the experience to, ultimately be your competitor.
Yeah, it's interesting. You're talking about hiring, and that brought up a couple of my thoughts. Is that I heard an interview on Borden's satellite radio station today. I listen to them a lot because I find their educational models just fascinating, and their interviews just fascinating. But just the hiring process is completely changed since, it's been 15 years since I've had to do an interview. One of the reasons I got into real estate is I hated the interview process. But just hiring people is completely changed. There's, candidates are being asked to submit one-on-one solo videos about answering the question, tell me about yourself, whatever that means. The cover letter is completely changed. So, the big businesses, the Fortune 5s or the Fortune 1000s, whatever those companies are coming back, and they're automating and trying to weed out those people as best as possible. But at the same time, how do you send a get lost letter or reject those people and do it in such a way that they're not going to badmouth you later about what a horrible company you are because you didn't hire them?
Are you asking me?
Well, yeah, Hey, Craig, I'm a Fortune 500 company, and I'm getting slaughtered on LinkedIn because we had 1,000 people apply for 10 job positions, and the 999 people that we send get lost letters to, they're bad mouthing us all over the place. Help me out, buddy.
Well, yeah, I can throw a little bit out there, but you'd have to write me a check before I give you the strategy for that. But I mean, here's the idea.
Not that specific position, but just the hiring process is changed. The whole environment has changed.
Indeed. Well, the last time, or maybe it was the first one, we talked about culture. Maybe on both sessions we talked about culture, right? So culture, just like brand, has got, it's more dynamic than just a word. So if that is a culture that as a leader, or whether it's a Fortune 5 or it's ma and pa, if you lead your onboarding, or at least your interviewing process with, just automation, this is how we do it. You're setting the pace. I call it the velvet rope, effect, right? If you're in line at McDonald's and then, an employee comes out and starts to put that, that elastic rope around to make you follow like a maze to get to your burger, you're going to follow it, right? So that standard's set. Now, if the culture of your organization begins with the interviewing process and onboarding people using automation fully without any like face-to-face or hands-on engagement, then, that's the template you set. So what you would say to those 999 applicants that didn't make the cut, you know, you would have to, explain that, you have certain systems in place that are very selective, so you select the best of the best. I I have, in the past seen, okay, submit a video almost like a guest audition. This is, I don't know, circa like 97,
Well,
2000.
I never said I was the most up-to-date and in-touch guy when it comes to interviewing.
Right. Yeah, well, send a video and, you submit it, you wait and wait weeks upon weeks. I mean, you have your Indeeds and, all these, ZipRecruiter and, all these different ways to find out what jobs are available. I mean, even Google has its own platform for basically filtering out where to apply, and it'll send you to some of those job recruiting things. I don't know if Monster's still relevant or not, but even that process is somewhat automated. I remember ADP had something years ago, and that allowed organizations to use their system for the recruiting and onboarding process that they have. But back to what you had asked, if there's a mix of that engagement and interaction, at some point, unless you're working remote or you have you actually are independent, and doing like traveling sales or something like that, you're gonna interact with a human being. You're gonna be called in for an interview, and corporations that are large, or like I said, ma and pa's, they need to come up with some form of balance, between just going full on, digital or video conferencing to something that, represents a good blend, so that when someone's coming in, they have an, idea of what the culture is. Now, if everything is automated, and we select, one out of the 999, then that you need to make sure you're consistent with that, because once you kind of fall off, that's when you get angry people, or those that are, trolls on the internet, complaining, about, how terrible this company's hiring process is.
Right. So now on the flip side, on the candidate side, if you're going to build that culture of, always trying to stay relevant and be innovative and all of that, then don't we need to be looking for, one of the things we need to be looking for in our job candidates is, even if they're completely internal, if they have no external, if this position doesn't have an external contact with the rest of the world, don't we want to hire people that will innovate even our internal procedures, let alone, and also as well as our customer facing external procedures?
Yes, I agree. Good point, Paul. So like, when you're interviewing someone, you might as well take what they're saying at face value. If we're changing the way that we submit applications or submit, answers or do our interviewing, I've seen, of course, conferencing like we're doing right now. That seems to be very effective, because you actually get to see the person and, their movements and how they answer questions. But why don't we switch up our questions, and perhaps even those preliminary steps to, obtaining a position, from the antiquated way of how we used to, well, where you see yourself in 5 years, and, why do you want to work for us? And, give them situational, questions, or also have them do a task. I was in college, and I remember I wanted to work for this fantastic marketing firm. They had a base in Atlanta and also in my college town. And, I was like, wow, I'm going to be an executive and work with them. And to my surprise, they actually put me to the test. So I had my first interview, I got to kind of tour around, they toured me around. They did the peer interviewing. And, ultimately they sent me home and said, all right, Craig, well, does this seem like the right fit for you? Well, here are the things that I need you to do. I need you to, research this company and compile, some or create some type of presentation on how you would, offer them, the services we have. I also need you to do this and do that. And I think that's a good way to filter out whether or not someone's the real deal or not.
Not to mention the fact they got you to do somebody else's job.
Right. No. Hey, I got burned before doing that. I did research on a company. That's another story. And they ended up selling it. And I never got hired, but that's okay. That was many years ago. I learned. But they gave you tasks. So if we're going to use this technology, like if you said, Craig, scratch your nose. Okay, well, I'm scratching my nose. Let's use the technology to its full potential. I talked to my wife before. I'm like, what? We don't really use our the internet the way we should. I mean, I do, but we're paying you $100 a month to do what? To browse a couple times, look at Facebook. Okay, great. But what are we really doing with it? So we've designed some things around the house that allow us to, make use of great things like, AI and, Google preferably, and, Apple.
Now that Amazon records everything that you say, right?
So I'm sure Google does it, and obviously we're on this Facebook platform, so there'll be a video of me scratching my nose. But if we're going to use this stuff, let's use it to its full capability, or at least as far as we can push it. But the important thing is not to lose that human side of things.
So how does a kid coming out of high school or right out of college, or who's getting ready to enter the job force for real, how do they highlight, or what kind of jobs are they looking for? Do they need to be more, here's how I innovate, here's how I solve problems, here's how I innovate, here's how I adapt to an ever-changing marketplace? Because Mr. Employer, your marketplace is constantly changing. So I'm imagining that you still have to maintain your brand identity and what's your core business and your core business values, but how you do it has got to be changing. So doesn't the employee or the job candidate need to be able to reflect that?
Well, yeah, I believe that, everyone should be able to display that they can adapt to changes, because it's happening over and over and over and over. One day it's blue, the next day it's green. But, to that point, Paul, one thing that I've noticed is that kids coming out of, high school, or, in the beginning stages of their college career, are learning how to code. They're learning certain skills that will of course keep them relevant in the job market. But as far as the skills to become critical thinkers and apply it, those are things that they should be developing, throughout the high school years, and even into that entry level college stage. Now, I do visit a lot of universities, and pay attention to what's going on. Listen, review curriculum and things of that nature. But I ask this, aside from just doing it when you need to add to your workforce, how many business leaders are actually taking the time to even take college courses, even those that may not even give them credit, just so they'll be at least advanced or privy to new things that are happening. So all that.
I'm sorry, but I was thinking, as opposed to the college courses, what about just simply reading?
What's wrong with reading?
Nothing. I'm just saying, that's what I'm saying is, I always thought, they always told me that the business leaders of today, they're reading at least one or two books a week.
Mm-hmm. But are they
development or business leaders or whatever?
are they really? Because let's think about it, Paul. I mean, this is why I'm always in business, right? You know, where's the time? The time is always there, but if you're prioritizing, putting out fires or taking on different business, initiatives, where's the time? I use Audible, and I also buy the paperback, so I'm abreast of what's going on. But that's why it's like I had mentioned earlier. It's important that leaders take the time to know their stuff and know what's coming, because when it does come, it's like boom, and I'm stuck. Then you got to hire a consultant or a collaborator, or a coach.
And I think a big key to that is setting the priority. Hey, I am going to read, if we have to. Hey, I'm going to read. I'm going to get up an hour early, and for the first 15 or 20 minutes, I'm going to meditate or do whatever, and then I am going to read for an hour to an hour and a half every day. And you've got to be intentional about that so that you get that habit. And if you're reading the right material and filling your brain, that's going to affect your behavior and not go all the way down that chain. So,
but also, Paul, the big thing, right? So I can read, I can go on YouTube and learn anything in the world. I go to free libraries, whatever, right? But how do I apply it? How do I apply that knowledge or that information that I just consumed? And that's where, again, that time factor kind of nudges people, away from staying committed, as you were saying, like, hey, I'm going to intentionally, take the time to put things in place. So everything starts, with, the leader, right? Everything ends with the leader. And if you're creating a culture of, hey, we've got this new fancy gadget, TV show, right? Yeah.
Whatever.
You got a fancy gadget, that's going to keep us, in line to compete against, the organization a mile away, but we don't know how to use it or apply it. We're just getting it just to get it. So many clients that I've had and other leaders that I run into, they're big on spending money and taking a risk on, buying equipment, right? But they're failing to see that it's not necessarily the new tools that you buy. It's how you use them, how you apply them in your everyday operation. So I would personally say, instead of investing, let's say $350,000 in a piece of machinery that's going to speed up the process, how about investing a portion of that into cloud technology, right? So, if you have a speedy process, but everyone's still moving slow, that's really not going to get you there. But if you have everyone connected using some of that technology, and you can pinpoint different functions within that process, then, that's not such a bad investment. The challenge is risk. But everything's a risk, particularly in business, heck, even in real life, if I step out the door, a plane falls down, hey, I took that risk. I could have stayed at home, let the plane fall down on me at home. But, it's introducing these new things to, not new things, these current, things to getting and those who are making those decisions, to get with the times. You and I, we're getting into our later years, but the truth of the matter is our kids and their kids and so forth and so on are using the phones and using technology, and we have to not just not coddle them, but it's become a norm. It's become an expectation. And
I saw on Fox today, parents are hiring consultants on how to get their kids off the phone.
Right.
And the consultants are bringing in $250 an hour to say, go take your kid for a walk and just play with your kids.
Right.
Take that, really.
Take it away from them. Yeah, take it away from them. Don't buy, don't buy the phone, first of all. You still have to be 18, as far as I know, to, sign an agreement for that. Even if they're paying their own money. Our kids had mentioned, if I get a job, I'll just pay for my phone. But I'm still responsible for the leasing of that phone. I don't know.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, it's, you brought up an interesting topic. I know we were going to talk about some other things, and I've done my best to kind of tie in that, but it's beyond me to think that someone who started their business in 1973 is still following the same processes, and sticking with the status quo because they feel the industry hasn't changed much except for just having the internet. Well, boom! Guess what?
Yeah,
Internet it won't even be called the internet at some point.
But this is the way we've always done it. My grandfather did it this way. My daddy did it this way. That only works for Italian restaurants where the recipes haven't changed because we want that old style home cooking.
You're right.
That's the only place I can think of where it works. Hey, Craig. Hey, man, we could hold this conversation forever. Take it 1,000 different directions, but we're running out of time. So let me get this up here really quickly. There's how to get hold of Craig for the people that are watching. He's got his website, We Speak Brand. His phone number is there. Yep. Any parting words in 30 seconds or less, and I will cut you off at 30 seconds. So be warned.
I got you. Hey, well, thanks again. It was a pleasure being on with you, and I look forward to many more to come. And if anyone needs to get a hold of me, you can go to WeSpeakBrand.com or visit me at CraigNeal.com.
CraigNeal.com. Okay, let me see.
Oh, that's okay.
Craig.
Either way, you'll get to either one. And even more so, I encourage you all to change your condition to change your position. Thank you again, Paul.
Thanks. Have a good night, sir.
Hey, you too.